Thanks for having me.
Of course, yeah. So last week, I was just saying a week ago today, you were on, I'm just going to call it part one, just because this is a continuation. Your phone died, so that's okay. It happens. We're just going to keep going. And do you want to just, I mean, do you remember kind of where you left off? I know you had kind of wrapped up, the diagnosis, and you were so young. There's no way you could remember that. You were a baby. So you spoke a little bit about how that was for your parents, what that was like, and then, the technology then versus now. And you talked a little bit about that and when you got your first taste of diet soda, the Tab. And so you can kind of, I don't know, kind of pick up where you left off or where you remember leaving off, if you want to just kind of fill in the holes, or you want to just start fresh. It's completely up to you.
Well, you mentioned some things that might be good. I don't know if I left off, actually, I had talked a little bit about Steel Magnolias and how I met that nurse, and I'm not going to go deep into my pregnancy because I don't want the moms out there who, I will say again, y'all are my heroes. Thank you for all y'all do for your kiddos. They're going to thank you one day, even though you may chase them around the house with an insulin needle right now. They will thank you. But because I had diabetes for 25 years when I became pregnant, and technology was not what it was. I developed preeclampsia, and it turned into the HELP syndrome. And I think had a preemie baby who was 8 weeks early. But you know what? He became an offensive lineman on his college football team. So
that's awesome.
Isn't that awesome? Yeah. We both were very, very sick, and diabetes did contribute to that. But I don't want the parents to think, because of what I went through, that their child's going to go through that, because the technology is amazing, and doctors have so much more experience with a type 1 being pregnant. And I will tell you this, I could only do it once. They told me when I got pregnant, that was it. Again, because it had its whatnot. But we were able to adopt a baby, which was an incredible experience. I was in the delivery room, and
that's awesome.
Handed her to me, and wonderful experience. So if that happens to any of your children, I will tell you this. I love our baby girl just like our son, and there's no difference if any of your children have to go through that. So it was an amazing experience. So we have 2 healthy children. I had already taught school for a long time, and then I went back to school after they were older. And I have one of my things here to tell you about. You said if I had any issues to talk about or misconceptions about diabetes or anything. And something that I had been concerned about was, when I got a job, do I tell them I'm a diabetic? And my parents were the ones that I talked to at this time, because my dad is an accountant. And I mean, they're wise people. And we decided then, and again, remember, this was so long ago, 22 years ago when I started my career, but I did not say anything about it in the interview. There are lots of Facebook groups that say, oh, it's
a protected class. You're a protected class.
Exactly. However, someone that hires a diabetic, you may have extra sick days. There may be hospitalizations and things. And I just always felt more safe not going into it like that. And I honestly didn't miss that much work, because I told you I never used that as an excuse. So I didn't miss work because of that. But for instance, this was another thing, and I can tie this into that. Have y'all had many sick days with your type ones? Have y'all talked about sick days a
We
lot?
haven't. The T1D talks have been for just sharing
Yes.
the diagnosis day and then the signs and symptoms leading up to the diagnosis. But I mean, in my mind, I've already I can branch out to so many other topics. I mean, I don't even know how long it would take to get through the T1D talks, doing 2 a week. I mean, we only have 335 members, so that would mean everyone would have to do one. So you're looking at,
Well, and that's,
I mean, I could do this probably daily, just in other subcategories. But
yes.
this,
And I saw your plans. I'm so excited for you to do that. That's awesome.
I'm not very
You're to go.
technical savvy, so I'm trying, and some of the members are trying to help me. But yeah, I could definitely, I mean, I could have so many more other than just T1D talk. I mean, for
Yes.
sure.
Oh, yes.
In a heartbeat.
Branch out on that.
But that's what these have been.
Well, I mean, I know it's the DKA is in the title, and I will tell you this, and I was so proud. I took great pride in the fact that I had, since diagnosis, I had never been in DKA.
That's amazing.
It is. And about 5 years ago, no, 3 years ago, I caught the flu.
Okay.
And my husband and I, it had been a long time since I had gone through a sick day. And when you go to the doctor, they give you paperwork, sick day rules, and make sure y'all, I know y'all do, but as an adult, and my mom had always said, anyway, have files for these things to make sure that you know where they are. And it tells you things to do. And I followed those. I even, while I was sick with the flu, I changed my pump. I checked myself. I didn't have a Dexcom at that time. I drank.
I was just thinking extra water when you don't want it.
Yes. Oh, yes. Extra water. But I didn't eat. And my husband, he was so sweet, and he let me sleep. And we did not make me eat. And I developed high ketones. And one day I said, I've got to go to the hospital. Like, I knew I was sick. And so he took me to the hospital, the ER. And while I was in there, they found out I was in the beginning of DKA. And I just started bawling. Like, I was kind of hysterical. And the doctors was like, what is wrong? And I said, I've never been in DKA, and now I'm in DKA from the flu. I said,
wow.
I try so hard to take such good care of myself and check my ketones and different things. And he made me feel better. He said, when I grew up, if you were in DKA, that is like nearly a death sentence. Yeah. I mean, it is scary and it is serious, but we caught it early, and I was okay. But always remember about, just a note to think about the sick day rules that you get from your doctor. Yeah. Because eating is a huge part, and you don't feel like eating when you're sick.
No, you don't. Yeah.
That was a big thing.
Yeah.
Oh, another thing I was going to tell y'all. I don't know if many of you are on the pump or not, but I was on the pump for 20 years. And then I had to have a hysterectomy, and I got off of it for 5 years. And before I got off of it, I kept having staph infections. And I'm a clean person. But I had to have 5 places lanced, like cut open, the bad squeezing and the packing and strong antibiotics. Have you been?
Cassie.
Your daughter's on MDI, isn't she?
Cassie is not on a pump. She self-injects.
Yeah, she's on multiple daily. And if she decides to, and there's a time, after I could get back on the pump after my surgery, I decided not to. I said, you just go through phases. And I was at a phase, I didn't want to be hooked up to a machine right then. And I went 5 years, and a lot of it had to do with, I was scared to get back on it because of these staph infections. It was so painful. And, yeah. So my sister, no one ever gave me a solution. They did the surgery, and they packed it, and they gave me an antibiotic. My sister is a nurse practitioner, and she found out to put Bactroban. It's an ointment. Y'all may know about it, but it is
Like
a
Bactrim?
diabetic
I know what Bactrim
friend.
is.
No, it's not Bactrim. That's a pill, but this is Bactroban ointment.
Okay,
And
okay.
it is a wonderful tool for y'all to have in your drawers. But she told me to put that on the end of a Q-tip and rub it in my nostril, and then put it on the other end and rub it in your nostril, and do that. I think she's twice a day for like 5 days. And I did that, and the staph is carried in your nose. And so when you do that, you stop becoming a carrier. And so I did that. I did the Bactrim thing in the nose. I do not use a towel more than one time. I used to like hang it on a shower, and I would use it a couple of times, but the doctor said, no, don't do that. So I really try to bleach my white towels, and I only use them once. And then I keep, do you remember what that soap is called? Oh, I do use Dial soap all the time.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That surgical soap, it's in a, hey, that alarm's going. There's some kind of surgical soap. I can't remember the name of it. It's liquid, but I use that on my pump side all the time. So doing those things I've not had one staph infection. And I've been back on it for 3 years. So just practical advice like that I can share with y'all.
Of course.
That's something that has helped.
Wow. That's stuff that I would never even have.
And I lived through it, and no doctor ever told me that. So my sister finding out about that really has helped.
I bet. That's awesome, having someone like that you can pick up the phone, that you trust. Well,
yes.
What's scary is also this too, and you can, I don't want this to take a turn, but I have a question. So I don't know if this has happened where you've been either, I don't know, you just said you've never been to DK, so you probably didn't have a lot of hospital visits or hospital.
Oh, I did.
Okay, you did. Okay. So Cassie, I took her to get checked out in the ER not long ago. Everything was fine, but she was acting kind of not loopy, but just, I don't know. I thought maybe she wasn't getting enough fluids. She was, I don't know, maybe her electrolytes were off. The endocrinologist thought, they were like, if you're concerned at all, take her, get her checked out. At the least, they'll just give her some IV fluids.
Yes.
And so there were a couple of things. She just was sleeping off and on through the day. She wasn't drinking. So I'm just like, all right, well, no ketones or anything, but I just was like, her electrolytes could be off, whatever. Anyway, so we get there and they check us in or whatever. And so the nurse comes in or whatever, and she's typing and everything's connected. And so she can see all of Cassie's information from her pediatrician. And then she says, so, they go through the current medications that you're on, any allergies that you have, they immediately do that, So she goes, so, is she still on Humalog? I said, well, that's insulin, so yes.
Yeah.
So then she's typing and she looks down, she goes, so, okay, Tresiba? I said, well, that's insulin, so yes. This huge wave of fear came over me, like, this person could potentially be in charge of my daughter.
Yeah, it is scary.
Like, and I didn't say anything to her other than, well, that's insulin. So, well, yeah, she's on that. And she just had no idea. Like, she had never seen Humalog or Tresiba, the words, ever.
Are you asking if that's happened to me?
Is that normal?
That is normal. And it is scary. My husband is over there, and I could ask him, how many times have we gone to the hospital? And it was especially scary when I was on, I said last time that I had the first pump baby in Shreveport. That's when we lived. I think I said that.
No, you didn't. That's
all. I was one of the first pumps. Medtronic was my brand. I used it for 20 years, but now I'm on the T-Slim and Dexcom and love it. But I was the first pump. And so when you asked about hospitalization.
Is that normal for nurses in the ER to not be familiar with what Humalog or Tresiba is?
Yes. Yes. And they honestly, I can't even begin to tell you. Every time I go in, and this is in a lot of Facebook groups, people are in shock that the hospital staff does not know. They do not know how to deal with pumps. Still, they don't know how to deal with pumps. So if she gets on one, you tell them, I am in control of this and I will do a better job. And they might get offended. Don't worry about it, because I do not want to take off my pump for them to control something and get me messed up, because that's happened.
It's
but
terrifying.
When they didn't know
That's
it.
absolutely terrifying.
You know more, and this is truly, you know more than that hospital staff, and it is scary. The pump, I had people lined up to come see my insulin pump because they had not seen one. You talked about, I had a doctor. One time I had my blood drawn. This was probably the maddest or most angry I've been about someone, about my diabetes. We went, anytime I get a virus or anything and I get dehydrated, I have to go get IVs. And growing up, I did that a lot, especially as an infant and as a baby. And I spent several weeks at a time, well, maybe not several weeks at a time, but a week at a time in the hospital several times. But when I was pregnant this time, I went in the hospital and this guy was trying to get my blood. And he couldn't do it because I was dehydrated. And it kept rolling. And I think he did it probably 3 times. And he looked at me and he said, these diabetic veins. Whoo! I still get so angry. And I could not believe that nowadays he would not have said that at all. I mean, at all. But he literally said that. And I said, I want someone in here getting my vein. But
oh my gosh,
that was pretty frustrating.
No, it is. And you know, when the nurse asked me if she was going over the list of medications, and I told her, well, you know, that's insulin. You know, I never saw her again. She didn't come back.
She didn't come back. She was embarrassed that she didn't know, but there needs to be so much more training about.
Don't even get me started on that. That could be a whole. I mean, I'm finding
that could
out,
be a whole.
and you're the one to, I mean, back this statement up. I mean, you know, seems like it's like I'm looking at the type 1 community as like a piece of like Swiss cheese. And it seems like there's like, I can see the holes and they need to be filled, but where do you even begin?
It's huge. It's a huge, huge issue. And that is why I say, if you go into the hospital, you have to be in charge of. In fact, that was a big concern over COVID, because people could not take anybody with them to the hospital. And if you were on a respirator, couldn't take care of it, there was no one there that could help you with your pump.
Oh my gosh.
That was a really big thing. And I got COVID and I was scared to death. I stayed home for 2.5 months. But I caught it, and it wasn't a bad situation. I stayed home. I didn't even have to go in. But
that's good. I'm so glad.
That was a big thing. So some people have, this is something that may be a tip of advice. And it looked like someone raised their hand down here. I can't see what they're saying. There may be a question. But to have
to join, I don't know.
A kit, and online there are lists of things that you need. I live in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and there's lots of hurricanes, and I have got to do this every time it's on my list. But to have a to-go box, and I have my kit that I take with me everywhere, but in a case of emergency, I had not thought of that before. If your house burns or if something happens, to have like a big kit with extra, my Dexcoms go down to the minute. Like I am.
Oh yeah.
Begging.
Cassie gets a new, where it's 10 days. She gets a new one tomorrow. We usually do the 10 days, unless it, you know.
Us too. Me too.
Unless it.
But I mean, when you need a new box, it's like, oh my gosh, I need a new box, and I'm down to the wire.
Yeah.
And I can't get an extra one.
Yeah.
To have on in my.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, that's an insurance Oh, don't even get thankful I have insurance.
Yeah.
So thankful. That if I have I don't want to be negative again because I told y'all that I've often said, especially lately, I retired and I really needed to, because now, as at this point in my life, I see several specialists. My joints are kind of an issue, and there are people that have had this 80 years, and I've talked to several of them. We've had messages and stuff, and they have these issues too, but you try not to focus on it.
Yeah.
But joints, I wouldn't have ever thought of that. But
Yeah.
so I see a nephrologist for my kidneys, and something that has helped, and I'm not offering medical advice to anybody, but I was at stage 3 kidney disease, and I had 3 doctors tell me to start eating a plant-based diet. Now, I wouldn't tell y'all to go eat a plant-based diet, but if someone had, I'm now in between stage 1 and stage 2. So just making that change.
You really reverse it.
Yes. But I see a nephrologist, and I see a neurologist. I see help me, honey. What else do I see? Of course, the endocrinologist. I mean, there's just several. And so to take care of my medical appointments and to make sure that I'm staying in control and to keep up with the pharmacy issues, it is a full-time job.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is, just to make those things. So I'm so thankful that I have already done my career and I was able to retire, and that helped tremendously.
Right. To be able to, I understand what you're saying. To be able to keep up with everything and put yourself first is what you have to do.
Yes. I mean, and I never did that. So now I'm able to do that. And although, not doing that, I think has made me stronger and has made me more, being able to do everything I've been able to do. But there needs to be a kind of a happy medium where
I agree.
you are, so you do take that, maybe put yourself first a little bit more.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. Wow.
Oh, have you ever checked someone's sugar that was having the symptoms that y'all talk about when you're newly diagnosed? Have you ever had a friend or anyone that you know that was having some of these symptoms that you talk about, and you check their blood sugar?
I know.
It's going to happen.
Not.
It will happen. You will have, my mom and I have checked probably hundreds of people, literally. If we're around them and they say, what are the symptoms? And it comes up in conversations quite a bit. I've checked so many people. I checked, but the first one I taught, she was one of my best friends. She still is one of my best friends. Vicky taught in the room next door to me, and we would not get potty breaks, which that's very hard for diabetic, but we watch each other's class. I was noticing she was going to the bathroom so much, and she had something in her hand to drink all the time. And I said, Vicky, I've got to check your blood sugar. And we were laughing about it, and we laughed about it for a couple of days. But I said, okay, you're coming. I'm coming tomorrow. Don't eat breakfast. You're going to be fasting. Don't eat anything. Don't drink anything. I'm going to check your sugar. And the machine wouldn't even read it. It was HI. And it got me so bad because I had checked so many people, and you can always say, you're fine. You're good. Your blood sugar was normal. And Vicky's, and she was 52, I think, at that time.
Wow.
So I immediately thought, it stopped too. But she did the test, and she was diagnosed as type 1 diabetic.
In her 50s.
At that age. In her 50s.
And go ahead. I just have this thought I've been thinking.
No, you go. That's it. It was just shocking.
So
it broke my heart.
There's so many parts of this disease that is fascinating to me, intriguing. I don't know, but how is it that someone at 14, 16.
You're kind of cutting out. I didn't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
I can.
So I was just saying, like, how is it that someone at 14, 16, 18 months can be diagnosed type 1, but then someone say, let's say she was 52. So how is it that someone at 14 months, their beta cells, their pancreas just slam gives out, but then you get someone that makes it all the way to 52? It's just intriguing to me. It's so, and then every age in between. You know, how is
Yes.
it that this 14-month-old baby, it takes 9 months for a baby to even grow, and then
I
they
know.
get their beta cells in their pancreas working for 14 months, and then you have someone that makes it all the way to 52?
It is a crazy disease. I
You know,
know.
I know. It's just, it is just
And
so
you know,
intriguing.
I had never even heard about the autoimmune relation to diabetes. I was the only type 1 or juvenile diabetic in my family. I mean, no one had, like I told y'all, no one had heard of it. I mean,
Yep, we hadn't either. Most
and
of
I
the
did not,
parents in this
you
group
too,
either. Yeah.
hadn't. And I had not heard of that connection, but I do have hypothyroidism
Okay.
and Hashimoto's. So when that was found out, it's about the time that the autoimmune connection started happening. Before that, they didn't have any idea. I don't know. It is intriguing, and one of the great questions of how I was diagnosed at 18 months and Vicky was diagnosed in her 5th. I don't know. It's something. I'm glad she didn't have to have it. I'm glad it waited till it was 50.
You know, I know, and then it's just like, I know, yeah, it's so like, because it doesn't seem straightforward as some diseases, you know what I mean? Like heart disease, you know, they pretty much have the handle or figured out, okay, like you have a heart attack or something, you know, sometimes you have to have a quadruple bypass or whatever. They go in, they know what's wrong, they know how to correct it and fix it. Let's, you know, try to make this as best as we can. But it's so, the more that I'm learning, the more I'm like, that is a pretty important organ.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
I mean, it controls and influences everything. Everything.
Yes.
Everything.
It does.
I mean, the heart has one job. It pumps blood, which obviously affects everything else, your oxygen, your brain, you know, but it just seems like the pancreas is just, it's like.
The hormones and it does. And I used to say my pancreas doesn't work. But it does, it has to for me to do something. I mean, you know, it has to produce something. It doesn't produce insulin, but it does so many things.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It is.
I don't know.
It's just fascinating. I mean,
crazy. It is. I really can't think of anything else other than the fact,
stigmas and misconceptions that you've encountered throughout your life, even as a child, like playing with friends. I would like to know.
Oh,
parents of your friends, did you have sleepovers? Were you allowed to have a sleepover? We haven't, you know, run into that yet because Cassie's still so young and she's asked. And I mean, you know, as a type 1 parent, you have to say no a lot.
Oh.
It's just not fair to put another parent into that position. And I'm dying to know, as a child, how did you get through that? Or even as little as like your age, when you're 2 and 3 and sending your child off to kindergarten, 1st grade, how do you prevent, well, you can't, or stop, you can't be everywhere, from another child giving your child a piece of candy because they're their friend? I mean, I can't. How did you?
And you know, my mom would always go, and of course, I mean, y'all did the same thing. She would always go and talk to the teachers beforehand. And I don't know when the teacher did that. I don't know if she sent me to on an errand or something. People did not ask. I'd never had, maybe she said, I mean, she told them how serious it was if I had a piece of candy or something.
Okay.
That wasn't ever an issue.
That's good to hear.
Kids offering me things or anything. Parties were extremely hard.
Yeah.
I hate I hated Halloween.
So yeah.
I did not like Valentine's Day.
Oh yeah.
We would go trick or treating to people that knew I was a diabetic, and I would get an apple.
That sends
was
Cassie
sweet.
high.
An apple does, and yes, I have to give insulin for an apple. But years ago, we didn't know what my sugar was. We tested urine, so at that time, that was the best thing they could have. But I didn't have sleepovers. I never had a babysitter. I think I told y'all that last time. I never had a babysitter. My friends would come stay with me. We did that lots. And I shared with y'all that I had one of my best friends growing up was my first grade teacher's daughter.
Yeah.
And I could spend the night with her, but my mom would come give my shot.
Oh.
She would bring my food, and then she would be there first thing in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
And I always haven't had a bedtime snack. And that didn't happen very often where I spent the night out at all.
It's tough.
But I did a couple of times have some kids, if I was in a new class or something, say, ooh, can I catch diabetes? I remember that, them thinking that they could catch it, like the cooties. Ooh, you're going to catch diabetes.
Yeah.
Well, I immediately stood up for myself and, oh, we don't do that.
Yeah.
It's not catchable. I did have in my life, when I began teaching, I taught with two, and I'm a Christian, and y'all know that I've mentioned God several times, and that's me, but these were two fanatics that told me if I had faith that I would be healed. And I immediately said, and it didn't turn me off from God, because I could not do this life without him.
I agree.
And I told them, well, if I have faith that God gave these doctors brains and intelligence to develop insulin, and I have brains to take it, so therefore I am okay.
That's a good
answer.
answer.
I have faith. That, and all the people that say, all the people, there's a group that says, don't take your medicine. God gave us brains to take the medicine that's been made for us.
Right.
So, I kind of dealt with that a little bit. I was always kind of scared at first when I started teaching to share with my students or their parents.
Oh, you were? Okay.
Like, would they be kind of worried about me being in charge of these kids?
Right.
But the more experience I got, no, I used that as an opportunity to share with parents what I could do, what I was able to do, even though I had this disease. And I did have one become a diabetic. I taught kindergarten, and in third grade she became a diabetic.
Oh,
which we have a bond. And then a sibling of a little boy I taught in kindergarten, and at that time I had my Dexcom, so he heard my beeps. And that was a neat connection.
I was just going to say, you're instantly, bonded. It's like bonding beeps.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yes.
That's awesome.
And so lots of my parents from my teaching years have reached out to me, and throughout the years, if they know someone, oh, you need to talk to Miss Mack. That's what they call me.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so great.
Yeah.
Well, if you can look up the statistics of how many people live with type 1 and how many are diagnosed daily and stuff like that. But when Cassie was diagnosed, her endocrinologist said it's about 1 in 400 kids. He said 1 in 400. And seriously, not even kidding, that's the amount of kids that attends Cassie's elementary school. She was the only child in her whole entire elementary school returning back. She was just starting 5th grade. Her principal is type 1. So I said, Cassie, if there is anybody in this school that you would want to be type 1, it is your principal. And she called me on the phone, and we spoke after she found out Cassie was diagnosed. And, they give them that backpack with the bear now in the hospital.
I do that now. I'm so excited. I get to.
You do?
I'm a JDRF.
I remember you saying you were a volunteer. That's amazing. That's amazing. But so she took the book in, and she was, not wanting to tell anyone right at first. And, of course, you have to make your rounds. You got to talk to the clinic. You got to talk to the guidance counselor. We have to go and have a 504 plan. And so I just spoke with her counselor, and she had this book. Can you hear me? Am I cutting out?
Now I can.
Okay. I don't know what's with our connection. So I don't know what you didn't hear, but she took the book in that was in that backpack. And I asked the guidance counselor if she would just read it to the class.
Oh, that's good.
And she did. And it really quieted down. It calmed down the stigma, like right off the bat. So Cassie didn't have to do the work. I didn't feel like that Cassie should be standing up, giving a speech or telling the class where she's been and now what she's, you know, having to.
Right.
And her teacher, I guess, you know, was fine with that, obviously. But so she read the book and it helped kind of calm down the stigma and the whispers and, you know, hey, that's not fair. She's on her phone. We went through that.
Oh,
little kids, you know, it's not fair and they like to tattle. So she'll be past that. She just started middle school, but you probably didn't have any of that, obviously, with technology not being.
I didn't have the phone issue, but I had a kit in each teacher's rooms once I started changing classes, like in 4th grade. And if I got to feeling low, I didn't have a machine to check myself, but I would go get something out of my kit, and some kids would complain, why is she getting to eat and we don't get to eat?
Well,
so
when you're little
you deal
like
with
that, that's going
different
to happen.
stages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just to be expected. But yeah, so 1 in 400 is what we were told. And they make you feel like that, oh, okay, 1 in 400. I mean, we never heard of it and it seemed rare to us, but when you're told that number and then looking for someone, you know, in the school that she could relate and connect to was literally like looking for a needle in a haystack. So then you feel like, well, this surely doesn't feel common. I
know. Yeah.
You're made to kind of feel like it's just, you know,
an everyday thing that, this is your life. Lots of people deal with it.
Yeah.
Welcome to this world. And it doesn't feel that way. You're right. It doesn't feel that way when you're going through it. You think, am I the only one that is dealing? I mean, as I said before, you're going to go through mountains, and I mean, it's like this, you know, when on those days. But this is amazing to me. It's very sad. But when I went through my training to become one of the volunteers and call new patients and different things, call newly diagnosed in New Orleans, every 4 days there is a type 1 diagnosed.
Is it really?
That was shocking to me.
That is shocking
every
to me.
4 days. Yeah.
That is shocking.
So I don't even know, how long has Cassie been diagnosed?
She was diagnosed October 2019.
So a year and a half.
Yeah.
I wonder if that every 4, of course, also that is that area. So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I can tell you this, that number is significantly higher than when I was I mean, there's so many more diagnosed these days, and I wonder why. I mean,
yeah, I know. I think everybody tries to, you know, all the parents that come home from the hospital with their newly diagnosed child, you know, you're not sleeping and you're up in the night and you're Googling things and you're researching things. And I mean, honestly, when Cassie was released and home from the hospital, I still didn't even fully understand DKA. I was still researching it after she had already been there, done that, and we're back home. I was still Googling it. And so, you know, it's just like.
And that was scary, I'm sure, finding out what could have happened.
Well, she's laying there beside me, you know, because I'm making her sleep with me. Not that she fought it. She was probably fine to be with me as well. And she's on, you know, on this side of the bed sleeping with me, and I'm Googling and researching and finding out that DKA doesn't always end well. And I would glance over at Cassie to make sure that she's actually sleeping so she doesn't see me like sobbing. So that's when I kind of like started to really realize, like, wow, there are so many other stories out there. Why aren't we hearing them? And I remember thinking, you know, when we were told in the ER 3 months prior to that day that we could have known that Cassie has type 1. And I just, it made me, I felt so like 3 months was ticking.
That she could have.
And, you know, and she was really ill. And a lot of the parents have shared that very same story. And we all kind of agree that we wish that finger pricks were just kind of common and routine You know, almost like how they used to drag all the kids up in the clinic to check them for head lice. You know, I don't know if they do that anymore. But
for lice with the pin, yes.
they check their eyesight or whatever they do now. But you know, it's just it's you realize like this is a huge deal, and no one's talking. Like, why aren't we hearing? I mean, you don't want to promote and share some poor family's tragedy that they put their toddler in bed and they never woke up. You don't want to share that, but it is important to spread all these stories. And that's why the group is before aware, because I feel like every parent should have the knowledge.
And you're doing exactly what you're doing, and putting those rocks out. You are bringing awareness, and that's wonderful. And I tell you, there were some people that were so upset that Nick Jonas did that Dexcom paid for Nick Jonas to do that. And I don't know how y'all feel, but in my mind, that was a big, of course, I would have loved for them to use that money towards research, but there's so many expenses, and so much of that money does not go to research. And to me, that was a good way to get out type 1 diabetes, and maybe someone will look it up. Now, could they have put the signs of diabetes on there? The one I saw, did it have them on there? It would have been good to have those on there. Look for these signs of diabetes, maybe playing in the background or something.
Like a PSA, to just scroll them down. I mean, it's great to talk about the, well, essentially they were promoting a product to people that will only know what it is if they're type 1.
If they're type 1.
But,
or if they're diabetic.
But I mean, like, if Cassie if she didn't have type 1, and I watched the Super Bowl, we watch it every year, and I watched that commercial, I'm going to be honest with you. The word.
You wouldn't have thought what it was?
I don't think I would have gone.
I guess just because I thought it was so cool that someone with diabetes was in a commercial for it. I mean, do you see just that sentence tells you how starved we are for representation? Oh, honey, you are preaching to the choir, because just to have the book that her counselor went to her classroom and read is mind-blowing. There were no books. I purchased a book called Mommy Beeps just to have. It's cute. About a mom that wears a Dexcom, and it beeps, and it tells why it beeps, and explains to her kids. And I wish I had that when I started. I mean, there's just so many things that I think just him doing that to me was huge, even though he gets paid for it, whatnot, just to get type 1 out there, and for people to realize what this thing is that I wear on my arm. And that is awareness. But I agree, so much needs to be, well, to me, coming from someone that has
it is.
Yeah.
Because it's
so, and there's so many different feelings about that what everyone has. To me, just bringing promotion to my illness that I've had for so long is great.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Do we need to do more? So much more.
Oh yeah, I know. It would have been nice to see. No, I know. He shared a story on several other occasions, other places and stuff, and he's talked about it. And there's been other ones like American Idol. There was Elliot Yamin, and there's a girl. There's a girl on Teen Mom. You know, and I wonder, like, I know they do donate. They do their own things, and not everything is on display. But you do wonder, like, those people that have the big platforms. You know, like you said, it would have been nice to have them, you know, scroll down or put up something for parents, like, you know, the symptoms and signs or whatever. I mean, once you're promoting the product, you already have type 1.
Have it. Mm-hmm.
So.
And that does make it nice when you go places and people see this Dexcom on your arm or my insulin pump hanging down. They're not looking at you like you're some freak. What is that she's wearing? I mean, you know, that does make it nice in that type of area. Yeah. Although that does bring up conversations, and maybe we'll get people aware as well.
Yeah, it could. Even just, I agree with that. Yeah.
But y'all have heard my story now, I think. I don't
No, it's been really nice.
Do you have any questions?
Let me scoot up and see. I didn't want to take away from us, and I'm going to have to go back through. I've seen people are posting and commenting, and I don't know if you're froze, but there's a lot. We'll have to go back through. Obviously, I'm sure you're going to want to go back through. There are a lot of comments, and I don't know.
Oh, I'll go back through.
Yeah, you'll have to go back through. And I just want to say thank you so much for doing this and sharing. And I know you don't know a life without type 1. It's
Thank you for doing all you're doing and getting awareness out there. And if there's anything I can help you do that's not
technical.
technology,
Me too. I know. It's so.
I would love to help.
Oh, and I appreciate that. No, you're helping now. I mean, I'm working on trying to figure out a way to make this easier, like more accessible and easier to share. And I have, toyed with the idea of YouTube. I tried to upload these on YouTube, and I know people do take Facebook Lives and put them on YouTube. I've seen them. I'm not doing the right format or something. It's some little something that I got to just either ask around or research on my own. But I'm going to try to keep, all the ones from the past are just as important as the ones in the future. And I just don't want them to get lost in the shuffle. Take all these, and however long it takes, a year, I don't know, a year and a half. I hope not a year, but yeah, I hope it doesn't take a year to
Well, you're awesome.
make a difference or help. But I just feel like, we also.
Well, you're already making a difference.
Oh, thank you. I hope so. And a lot of the members have been pushing me on. And it's so nice to hear, because you don't know, like, is this going to be the video that helps someone? I mean, in every single one I get off, and I just, it's kind of, it can get heavy, especially the one with the little boy on Christmas Eve. That can get kind of heavy.
Christmas Eve.
I went down and cried, and I was like, Paul, are you sure I'm supposed to be even doing this? I don't know that should I be doing this? And he was like, Tara, I think you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. And it's just, I feel such an obligation now, even though Cassie is so newly diagnosed. Like, we have all this information. Like, I feel like I need to do something outside of the walls of our home. And I have the philosophy, and I have the feeling, and I couldn't wake up in the mornings if I didn't believe this, that I have been given this life. Unfortunately, poor Cassie, we're along for the ride. It's her actual diagnosis and disease. We are given this life for a reason. There is a reason. I have to believe that.
Absolutely.
And whatever that reason is, and watching Cassie, she's a very strong-willed person. She's very, very strong, which is good and bad in a lot of ways. But for submitting to a disease, a lifelong disease, has been hard to watch her, because she's been like watching, like when you're trying to break a horse. She just, it's just like I'm watching her. It's slowly, she's been kicking and fighting. She doesn't want to fully submit, and watching that from the background going, okay, there has to be a bigger picture. They're just like, this can't be, it's not just about Cassie. It's not just about us. It's not just about our family. There has to be, like, I have to turn this around. I don't know if it's the feeling of taking back control or turning something bad to something good, but this isn't for us anymore. We already know Cassie has type 1. So that's that.
I shared that the last time I talked, that when I know I'm supposed to share my story, and I don't think I added this. When I finally came to peace with having this disease, and I'm not joking, I've had it my whole life, but I was probably late teens, early 20s.
Yeah.
Before, and maybe even later than that, honestly, when I finally came to peace with it, that I was given this, and I even did a special on the news one night that said I was blessed.
Yeah.
And I can say that without, yes, it is a hard life. Yeah. It is. There's so many things, but I wouldn't be the person I am without it. And it has made me more empathetic, more sensitive, more something that I know that I've got to help others with this disease. And I felt so much better once I realized that and knew that I had it for a reason. So for you to already know that and come to terms with that is huge. That's so good, Tara.
Oh, thank you. I just trying to.
And Cassie will.
Yeah, she will. She's it is. It's like watching it, and it's baby steps. I got there quicker than Paul, my husband. I don't know, and I think he just kind of came behind me. But I was there.
My daddy was gonna find a cure.
Yeah.
And it was half on my daddy.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. It was. But watching Cassie kind of fight through this, I mean, seriously, like, it is. It's like watching someone trying to break a horse. And I can give her love and give her, tips and advice from an adult. I mean, I'm 45. She's 11. So it is hard to, like, I have to let this be her journey, but I have to, like, lovingly kind of guide her without, like, that's kind of hard too for the parent, because, she's even said to me, Mom, you don't have it.
And she'll have those feelings.
You don't have it.
But
So
I promise you, I shared this with you and I started crying, that keep in mind that one day she will thank you, and just keep on doing what you're doing, because my parents and God are the reason I'm here today. And I have to share with you, I'll probably start crying, but tomorrow is my 49th birthday.
Oh, is it really? It is. Happy birthday. You look wonderful.
Oh, you're sweet. But when I was diagnosed, I told y'all that my parents were told that I would be lucky to live to 30. So y'all just keep that in mind. Things that you hear.
Yeah.
And think about in 49 years, how awesome. And I'm doing so well.
Yeah.
So hopefully that will be a positive stroke for y'all, and motivate y'all to keep on doing what you're doing.
Yeah. I've even said to Cassie, you try to put a positive spin on it some days when I'm even grasping for something new to say that she hasn't heard before. Cassie, just think, if you have to have it, or if you are living in a time where there are things that can help us care for you and make your life a little bit easier, and she doesn't say anything back. So I guess she appreciates that.
She listens.
Yeah.
She does.
But she's so strong-willed, and so I just, one day when that peace comes, and she fully, that's what it's going to be. I'm just waiting for the prize for her to fully submit, to just completely, this is what it is. Like, I'm just waiting. I'm watching and waiting, and I feel like I'll be able to tell, when that day, when that it just kind of fits. And she just gives in, and that's all it is right now. Cassie she's not wanting to, like, she's so strong-willed, and it's just, I guess, admitting that, that you.
And I did once. I said, I know I have this for a reason. God has blessed me with this to help others. Once I fully, but I still, and she will too, I'm sure, I still had those.
Oh, yeah.
Pity parties. I still do sometimes. But not as often. And,
I mean, people that don't have lifelong, challenges and diseases do that on any given day.
Yeah.
But
that's right.
I don't want to keep you any longer.
I won't keep you any longer either. I so enjoyed talking with y'all.
You too.
With you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And if I can do anything to help, let me know.
Oh, that's nice. Go back through and read the comments. I'm sure there are some comments and some questions for you.
Oh,
all right. Well,
okay.
Take care, and happy birthday.
Thanks. You too.
Bye. Oh, thank you.
Bye-bye. I don't know how to turn